Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Show. We are recording here on Friday, February 9th, about 30 minutes before the close. My name is Ben Maldonado, and as always, I'm here with my partner, Barry Hederachi. Barry, how we doing?
Doing pretty good. It's a balmy 88 degrees in Costa Rica.
Oh, nice, nice. It's actually balmy here today and outside of DC. We're at like getting up to 62, 63 degrees.
All
So that's
right,
not bad.
nice. That's very
Not
nice.
bad for February, early February.
Nope.
The market is sure heating up, which we are going to get into. Barry is going to cover, we'll start off with Barry covering the big five, which is ES, bonds, gold, crude oil, copper, uh, and the dollar and the euro. And then he'll switch it over to me, and I'm going to go over Bitcoin, the NQs, and three commodities today: wheat, coffee, which we've been talking about for a while, and a new one that is broken out of a very large base that I posted on X today, cotton. Cotton is waking up from its long slumber. So we will dive into those. But first, let's look at the E-mini. Are you getting aquaphobia yet, Barry?
Boy, it's really getting there.
But you
But
know
this,
what? Every day I look at it and the technicals are bullish and everybody's saying, "Oh, it can't go any higher, can't go any higher." And I'm like, "Damn, they're going to get jammed. They're going to keep jamming this higher."
absolutely. This is what we just talked about a couple of weeks ago. We said, as
Yeah,
long as they keep saying you can't go any higher,
right.
well, it's going to go higher.
Yeah.
Kind of how it works.
And I mean, the technicals, even the short-term technicals continue to be bullish. So to fight them is just basically lighting your money on fire, you know?
Yeah, you don't fight these at this kind of angle.
No.
You might be able to fight around here somewhere, but not these.
Right. Right.
And but so trading wise, going back to last week, basically we talked about 49, 46. If we can hold above that, we're good to go. And we
Yep.
talked about 48.51 being, we can sort of, that's the key level to hold overall. As long as we're above that, the market's in a strong position, and above 49, 46 would be, let's just say, extra strong.
The launch pad.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what happened.
Yep.
What I wanted to do was look at the 30-minute really quick to get a quick view of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
We had this 50% of the square, which it's right around 49.81 is the level we were watching short term. We talked about how we came and spiked the 49.26 last week. This is a 30-minute chart. And you can see how we built up a little triangle right at the 50% mark. And you're making these higher lows. We're holding up the trend line, and eventually we broke to the upside right there. And that was it. And the next stop, well, the line above that was, well, we had 49.92 and 50.10. This 50.10 was kind of a big deal, meaning if we're going to get stuck anywhere, it would have been 58.10. I mean, 50.10.
Mm-hmm.
And if we somehow got on top of 5,010, then, 50.70 is the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And at this rate, I'm not even sure if 50.70 is really the level. We might go up higher this other half, 50% point.
Sure.
But we'll see. We have time, and trend is okay.
I mean, we were talking or before the show started about 5200 being a possibility. My weekly half square is at 5200. The monthly half square is at 5182. So certainly magnets are up there.
Yeah. And I have a lot right around this 51, 60, 70 area. So, that we're in the ballpark, right? As we get closer,
Mm-hmm.
we can kind of dial it in.
Sure.
So this week, the whole story was, first it was if we can get about 49.81. And after that, it was basically, can we hold 50.10 or not? So, well, I guess we could,
Questions answered.
all the questions are answered, held really well. And this is what we're talking about, when we say, get above, hold above, this is really good. This happened. These are actually buy opportunities. If you look at what we were talking about during the day on that day, about trend lines, and if it's holding about certain trend line, how it's in a strong position. So we got above, and if not that, well, here we held above, well above it, and then we started moving higher, and we're doing pretty well. And they're really not much up here. We could have sort of hard pullbacks, but long as we're about 50-10, I think 50-70 is the next level to watch, which is a major square. So it is resistance. And if we can get above 50-70 and hold above, like just like we've been talking about, holding above 50-10 and also holding above this 48.94 back in the day, then, we're going to go higher. So there's no reason to fight anything. We just kind of go with it. I think that's the thing to do. And this makes trading easier. Can you imagine when we're all stuck in all kinds of chop, it becomes a headache. Then you're waiting for a breakout. Well, we got it. We got multiple breakouts.
Yeah.
So now it's just trading. And like I said, 49.46 longs were about that. We're in pretty good shape, and we can continue to look higher. Now there is a 360 days from the low coming up end of February, or beginning of March. And when I look at these, I always like to take a look at, what happens at the, both lows, because this could be sort of a phantom low.
Well, like a false break low. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always good. And if you guys are doing Gann stuff, it's always good to check which one's got traction. And here, first I was waiting for the 180. I mean, 180 by 360 would have been so classic.
Yeah.
But no, we're not going to stop there. So
no,
we're getting above that. Now, if we get down to the other one, well, we cleared that. It looks like that's the one with the traction because we can see the action here. So I think it's
what's the timing on that, the higher low? That looks like about what, a week?
Yeah, it's about a week. So we put it there. That's coming up. I think last time we did was 16th or so. Yeah. 16th.
Yep.
And we do have stuff coming up in the 16th. There's some other things that line up, and that could be the trigger. So we'll be watching all of that on.
Because as you and I were talking about, Barry, before the show, there's 4 different cycle hits this weekend, which I'm very curious to see going how a lot of markets went into this. Do we get the continuation? Do we get the reversal? Do we accelerate? What's going to happen coming out of this window this weekend will be interesting.
If we have anything, if we have anything like a 360 in front, we're going to get pulled into it. And these are the best times to trade because it's going to get pulled into these 360s, be it this one. And if we blow right through this one, then we're good till end of
February. Yeah.
So let me see if I have anything else to add to this. I mean, the nice thing about the end of the month timing is we also have, we're 90 from this last low. So a 90-day run, roughly, 90-day run is it's a solid run. And we can get up at least into 50% of the square, which is right around 5,200. That's where I got that 5,200. If we can get up in here and to terminate that at 135 by 90, that would be pretty good.
That would be a good one.
Be a great one. So up until then, I think we have plenty of room. We're watch the trend lines and just trade the trend, which is up, which is like trading 101,
Yeah.
Right. So right there lines up, with a couple of other things. So we can watch that. Yeah. Let me put it back. Let's jump to the weekly.
Yeah, let's look at the weekly. Getting pulled up into that ABC, isn't it?
Yeah, and I really like that. It's a good target. And it looks like we're going right into it. And so it's 52.58, 52.60. So 5,200 seems like the place, It really does. And might as well just keep our eyes on it. And it's a nice steep line. And this going 90 days right into that and terminating on those dates are going to be beautiful. If we can catch that, it'll be a nice correction to catch. Not that that's going to be I know we did some long-term work, and I'm not sure if you posted any of it, but we know we could definitely run this here if we have to. Whatever we get here, it might not be the high, like you say, but it could certainly be a good tradable high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so let's watch it. Now you guys have the numbers, you have the potentially where it's going to go. And so this ABCD is not just an ABCD because it's tied to this leg. So we have a Gartley here on a huge weekly basis. Here's XABC. And well, that carries a lot of weight. So this area, this entire area is really the sort of all the let's say the premium ratios come up to here. And including the ABCD. I mean, ABCD is a good way to kind of monitor it, but we want to watch it come into this. So it looks like we have time. And I saw, what do we have, 15 weeks or something? I saw it in the news or some headline went by. And I think we're going to blow through everything, all the historical numbers just to top this off in a nice way. And catch everybody super bullish,
Yeah, as long as the disbelief is there, it'll keep pushing.
And at some point you'll see it switch, right? Sentiment will go,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is just going to the moon, and watch it. It'll probably be right in here.
Right.
when that happens. All right, so that's it. I think it's not much more to say. Do you have anything to add, or we're good to go?
No, we're good.
We're good. All right. Looking at the bonds,
this looks like we could catch a big move potentially here.
Well, we talked about it last week. We talked about how we take out, essentially 1916, 11916, 19 and a half. That is really our, that's our line. We got this big old red line right there. And we came in, yesterday we got close to it. Today we got close to it. A little bit of buying came in. So that is the support. And I think if you guys missed it last week, what we talked about was if we take out this ABCD low, then bonds are going to go lower. There's no question about it. And he might do it rather quickly. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the low at around, 119, simple enough. And we did come up, the lower high wasn't 72 degrees. So that's something. We looked at the high come in. So everything looks good. We made a lower high. We're just waiting to see if we can do a lower low.
Yep.
And if we do that, I think we have a ABCD coming right up into about here, right about the 50% line. So we'll see what happens. But for now, bonds are not exactly bullish.
No.
And that's going to be a surprise.
Right.
So here, 114 is really the level we're watching. That's the next support level. This counter trend
died right in the box.
Yeah, came right in there and reversed nicely. I mean, this week we took out last week's low, be it just fractionally, but we have all of next week to see what will happen. So that low that we have on the weekly is that ABCD low that I was talking about. If that goes, especially being the ABCD, now we see it's a weekly low. If that pivot goes, then then 114 for sure. And if 114 goes, then new lows for sure. For sure. I sound so confident.
Probabilities strongly favor it.
Yeah. Let's rephrase that. Then again, what to do, that's what it looks like. What am I?
Yeah.
And just to remind you guys, so if you guys like our work, please remember to click the button, let us know, thumbs up, and subscribe, and maybe share it with your friends that might like this type of analysis. And what else can they do? They can with the alerts.
Ring the bell, subscribe. Yep.
All of those things. All right. And we appreciate you doing that. That's great. Getting back to moving on to crude. Well, the 73.50 area is what we talked about last week. And I really made a big deal about this trend line.
And it held.
Right. It held. We did a little quick false break there and we got on top. Then we just rallied after that. As soon as we cleared 73, you can see how fast we moved to the 50% line. So this is no joke. You can see the day before, like Wednesday, it was a super tight day. And Thursday, just bam, right on top of 73.50 and just moved.
Yep.
And so that looks good, but I'm not, I'd like to see it get on top of the 50% to really call out a bigger trend.
Agreed.
For now, it could just as well be consolidating up in this area, wrapping around the 50% or the 73.50. So 77 is really the level we want to get over. And the good deal there is if we do that, opens up 83 and potentially 91. And eventually take out this high from last September.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what we said, if it takes out ABCD highs or lows. So if that goes, then something's really up.
Big run. Yeah.
Something's up. Yeah. So for now, the trend is okay. Watch the lower trend line. We're above, holding well above 73.5. And we're watching next week to see if we can clear 77 and get some business done. Let's move on to
The weekly.
weekly bonds, weekly crude.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there we go. We had that big outside scary reversal. And what do we do this week? We'll rack it the other way. Don't tell me this is not designed to, I mean, this is definitely moving in a way that would scare the retail people, right?
And you know what's hysterical, Barry? The monthly we have an inside bar, and that's exactly what it is, whipping up and down, up and down.
So that was a whip down, got everybody, and now we ran higher. That's why Thursday was so hard, right? Probably got all the shorts in there.
Yep.
Well, all I can say is 73.50 is the key. If we can get above 77, we're in good shape. This is 73.50, happens to be the 50% of the square of 45. And you can see, it's doing okay. It made a higher low compared to the prior low from last June. It looks okay. It's bullish. Let's just say I wouldn't be playing the short side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's playing the short side, but
somebody's playing the range.
Yeah, you can play the range and you can write on both sides. There's fun things you can do. So here's our gold box of gold. And all I can say, it looks like we're going to be there for a while. It's just the pattern is very, if you take this as a 1, 2, 3, then this is a 4, and we'll have to wait till it finishes up. Not much else to do.
There's nothing to do.
No. Well, we could look at the weekly gold, which is actually very impressive. It's building up a little triangle, a little flag.
Yeah, look at that triangle. Yep.
It's looking good. Like this week was a nice compression. Let's see what next week brings. But if you guys want to, draw some lines and watch the break. Breaks. Yeah, watch the break. And 2000 really is a low. I mean low. That's really the lower level to watch. And because you can see we held there for a couple of weeks, and clearly there's some support historically. So if that holds, we can expect it to get above the 50% of the square. But long as we're stuck under 50% of the square, I would say it's on a weaker footing. And if we lose 2000, then, we can go down a couple of $100, no problem. And even that would be, at this point, I would look at that as a healthy sort of a correction. Yeah, let's just, we'll leave it at that. Mainly because there are other things that are moving, right?
Yeah, all you need to know about gold is 2 monthly inside bars. We are sideways.
Yeah. And don't get too anxious because there are good times coming. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's it. And I'll show you an example of that in the commodities. We'll show you what happens.
Right. So copper, what happened to copper? We were sitting around the 50% of the square and started slipped under. Now we broke the trend line. So clearly there isn't a whole lot to do other than unless you want to write both sides of this, copper and just make a little bit of a, eke out some money on that.
Gold, silver, and copper, all three are going sideways.
Yeah, the metals are breathing and taking a break.
Yeah.
So not much to add. We'll wait for things to wake up, I guess. And we got down to the sort of the critical level, which is 64. It's 3.6450. So 64.50 is sort of the key level, and if you look at the trend line, it's right in there. And it just so happens to be, this is really a good pullback after the break of the trend line. It's coming, we came and tapped it once before, a 3 weeks ago, rallied, came back and tapped it again. It's not on some huge sell-off like we saw here, but it's just not moving. And as long as it's above 64.5, I think we can treat it as a consolidation on a very kind of a bullish stance. And even if it's long as above the 90, it's in fairly good shape. But to really get this thing moving, we want to see it eventually get above the half 50% of the square, which is about 405. But I think we can trade coming off of these lows if this is held. But since we just happened to tap it today, we'll have to wait for next week.
See what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to follow that. But watch that 64.5 and see how price reacts to that. Let's get on with the dollar.
Dollar had a big week.
Yeah, dollar's doing pretty good.
Got above that half square.
Yep. So we've been bullish since we did the 60 down, and we talked about how that's a common cycle in the dollar and some other currencies. And we wanted to see how it moves up. Well, it didn't exactly run up like the S&P.
Right.
It had some, lots of consolidation, 2 days up, consolidation, 2 days up. So I'm guessing consolidation. The thing to watch here is like 103 and a half.
Yeah,
we want to be above the 50% of the square, especially now since we have all this support built up all through January. And if we can hold above that, then we take out 105. Really, it looks like 107 is where we're going. And it looks okay. And even if you draw another trend line, we're well above that. So there's definitely what I would call breathing room. There's that trend line. So you can see even with the trend line or without, 50% of the square is really the key here. And as long as we can hold above that, I think you can trade it on the long side.
Weekly's climbing that ABC.
Weekly's looking good, and if we can do this ABCD, wow, it'll be a nice trade. It's been a nice trade so far since we held the 90. This is kind of like what we were talking about in copper, holding that first 90. If we can hold that, we're in pretty good shape. And this, we had 180 up here. Copper pretty much did the same thing on the weekly basis, right? It was 180 up here, and it's hovering above 90. And well, dollar's doing the same thing on the weekly. So let's see what happens. Right now it's bullish. Yeah, sure, we could have a 1 or 2 week counter trend, which would be just fine since we haven't had even a single one. The only day we had for consolidation was this inside bar on the week of the 12th. So it could be due for pullback, but it looks pretty good. It looks strong, and it really looks like it's going to get up into the ABCD. So we'll take it one step at a time. Moving on to the euro. So we did slip through the 108 level we've been talking about. We came down into it. We sat on top of it for almost a week, and then slipped through. Now we're coming back to tap it. So the idea here is, we can counter trend up into 108. And if it fails, you can basically trade the short side from there. If we get on top of 108, then we're probably going to we're probably looking at a consolidation, in here, that kind of a box. So we'll watch that for next week. For now, below 108 and a half, 108, I'm sorry, 108. We're looking for weaker conditions. But I think the weekly is the key here to sort of gauge the momentum, let's say.
Sure.
And you can see how many weeks we've come down. It's kind of like the dollar chart. So, and I talked about, if we for weeks and weeks and weeks, once we slip below 108, it's going to be a weaker market. And
dicey, yep.
And it did get weak after we took out 108. Now, if we can't make it, so you watch it for next week. If we can't get above 108 and kind of establish ourselves, then, I think there's plenty of downside to trade.
Yeah.
All the way down to 104. So watch the 108 area. This could be a good trade setting up. And for a while,
Yeah.
Going into a few weeks. Well, that's the extended big five.
Right.
Let me see what else we have going. We can talk about natural gas for a bit.
Yep, we finished the ABCD. Now we got to see if it's going to
finish it and then
turn. Yep.
Yeah. So, this holding this 120 was was pretty good. It was good. It was good to watch it, see what was happening. And sometimes when this kind of gets back to like a Gann lesson, but sometimes when bottoms get extended, different cycles take over. So that it's once in a while, it's good to see, hey, is it really a 60 that's working? And 60, 90, it's 2/3. They can all work just fine. But here, that's in the thirds. But here we have a 135 coming up, and it's possible that we find support here. So we'll watch that level till next week or next week. So that would be 160, 1.60. And well, at this point, we're not trying to catch the low. We're trying to see where it bottoms out and then try to catch the,
catch the next move. Yep.
the next move and see where we can get on the long side. Short side, as you can see, it's not exactly in a, it's not in crash mode. It's just very, very tight volatility.
It's really, really small bars, and it's almost like disinterest more than selling.
Yeah. And, that's where you get the bigger, big breakouts coming. And I would say, now we have to start watching it. I don't know how many months it'll last, but you want to watch it when the volatility really gets squeezed. And so we're there. And 160 is a level to watch for support. So we'll wait for that.
Yeah.
We'll wait for that. Not much for now. And I'm a little bit chicken to trade the short side on gas with all this stuff.
Yeah, at this level. And it's funny you say 160. My monthly full square is at 162. So right in that area of support.
Ooh, that's just perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
What else can we look at? We can look at the Hang Seng.
It's trying to get up off the floor.
Yeah, well, this low came in really well. We were watching that. We called it out when the low came in. Did a nice ABC, terminated that. And we did try to do an ABC to the upside and not quite.
Didn't quite make it.
No. But it's kind of holding well above the low. That's the thing I'm watching here. It's holding well above the low. And we do have an XABCD coming up in here, a little bit of a Gartley setup. And if it goes away, well, just fine. I don't think it'll be a problem. But the fact that we didn't go higher and get into an ABCD at least tells me that we're going to probably consolidate longer. We're not quite done, done with the lows. And we'll know when we can sort of settle above and consolidate above the 50% of the square. And that's at, let's just say 15,700 or 15,800. If you can hold above that, and I think we'll be in good shape. Up until then, yeah, it's trying to get some traction. The Dow, well, here's another case for us, Ben. We're projecting these higher levels.
Yep. Timing.
Exactly. We're looking at, 5,200 in the S&P. So the Dow, it's set up. You can see the setup here. We hit the 50% here, jammed up to the full square. Okay. Hit the 50% here, came back, checked back, and we can easily get up into 40,000. So I think that would be the reasonable thing here. 40,000.
And what's the timing at the 360 there?
Well, it's next week. It's your
cycle's coming in.
Yeah,
yep.
It's February 16th.
Yep.
15th, 16th. So let's see what happens. Now, if that's not the one, we can always move it up to here. There's another one coming up, which is at the end of the month.
Yeah, the
could be either one, but either way, it's not hurting for us to have watch two spots if it's going to help us catch a sort of historic run up, And that comes up at the end of the month and giving us a little bit about 4,000. So that would get us up into 40,300. Yeah. So it looks like we're getting up there, and this is so bullish now. Even a correction coming down to 3,700, 37 and a half, we're still
bullish.
Yeah. It's bullish all the way down to 3,400, 34,000.
Right.
Yeah, that's 90 coming up here. So we're working. Have you noticed how many things are going from 90 to 180?
Yeah.
Out.
I have.
These are kind of, we don't know what the economy is going to do or what the sentiment's going to do, but when you have so many things sort of cycling into these 90s, 180s, 360s, we have to pay attention because those are bigger cycles. And
those are completion cycles, really, which is really interesting.
And it's well, that alone is one, but what we're watching is, if the indices have this 90 run right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really terminates some of these longer legs. And man, how beautiful is it to do a trade using Gann, or if you're studying Gann, to see in real time a 360 bar count getting terminated by a 90-day run.
Mm.
It's that's very cool. Yeah,
The wheels within the wheels.
definitely. And it happens, it happens
Yes, it
often.
does. Yes, it
So
does.
so let's watch this. So you guys are kind of watching this with us in real time. And that's probably why you want to hit the alert. So in case you forget,
Yeah, exactly.
get in there. Well, that's all I got. I think that's
That's good.
yeah.
Very, very good coverage and
Thanks, Ben. What do you
covering all the different possibilities and angles.
Yeah, and for now you can see a lot of the things are just running, it's just running right up into these spots. And the big lesson for us is how, when you have good cycles ahead of us, how hard the market will go into it. And
Yeah.
you'll see this. This looks really like that. So
Yeah.
it'll be nice to watch, fun to watch. And let me put it back to you.
Okay.
What are you covering today? What commodities? I
We're
know
going to
you
look at wheat, cotton, and coffee.
Very cool. And
Yep.
of course, the NASDAQ and Bitcoin, which you
And
covered.
NASDAQ and Bitcoin as well, the regulars. Yep.
Well, looking good, accelerating, took out the square, looking all positive.
Yeah. So last week we were saying, oh, look, we're pushing up under the square. Let's see what happens when we get here. Well, 2 days in a row, the highs were right on the full square. And then today shot right through.
Hmm.
And you basically we're clearing the square today. So I left this big ABCD on, which is, obviously a potential target and a full square up here. That would be if we really got going to like 19,350.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you on a weekly basis. On a weekly, we're almost at the half square here.
Wow.
And right here would be, that's 18,185. And on a monthly, the half square is right there. It's around 18,465. So those are reasonable targets. Clearly, on a monthly basis, we're starting to go parabolic here. On a weekly basis, the angle's pretty steep, but you can't argue with the fact that, it's bullish above roughly 16,900. I mean, as long as the pullbacks hold that level, it's still bullish. Now we have cycles, as we were talking about, during your segment. We got different things coming in, so we just have to watch. On the monthly, the first level to watch is 17,900. If we lose that, then this move looks like false break, and then we're going to come down and see if we can hold above that previous high. But as long as we keep pushing through these square levels, you just got to stay with the trend, and the trend is up. Any other words of wisdom you have on it, Barry? It's a lot like the ES. You just got to watch it, go with it, and note when the cycles come in and see if we see any change in character of the price action.
Well, let's not forget that 17,732. You have that little line there.
That's a harmonic balance
Yeah.
point.
And I would
Yep.
say, I think the easy way to gauge it would be, as long as we're above that, you know, we have a full square and an ABCD up above. Where would that last ABCD go? We have another one, starting at
This one
right
here.
there. Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, I guess that should get up
Similar area, I think.
at least 50%, a little bit above.
Yeah, a little above the 50.
So, oh boy, well, either way, we have to go higher.
Until we get below this harmonic balance point in this full
Yeah.
square, absolutely. So the levels, by the way, all the levels that I have and all the markets I cover are up on a Google Doc spreadsheet, which I will post the link tomorrow when we post the link to the show. So you can find all these levels there. Let's go check out Bitcoin. Bitcoin did a nice sort of bullish move this week. Check this out. And this is the beauty of these levels, right? You look at something like Bitcoin, which everybody thinks is, it's brand new, it's innovative. How could Gann stuff work on it? Gann stuff is like for old established markets. I mean, look at what we did. We topped here, time and price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pulled back, held above the full square, went up, battled at this half square for
And held
al-
above.
almost a full week, and then we held above. And one day, as we held above, boom, shot right up, and we go up to the full square.
Mhm, mhm.
And so now, this bar is both above and below. So we don't have a definitive answer yet on whether we've cleared that square or we're going to, it's going to become resistance or is it going to become support? We don't know yet.
Mhm.
But we know that once the battle here is done, if we settle on top, we open up this other square, to go higher still.
Right.
Take out these highs and go up to the half square. If we get stuck under, we have a lower high and we would fail there and we would be heading back down here to the battle here.
Mhm.
So this is just a good example, and you can see how well the squares work in helping you sort of define the price action and where the risk reward is favorable or not.
Yeah.
It's going to be, to me, the key is, can we clear this? Can we take out that high? If so, we're opening up another leg up. But the jury's still out there.
It could be a double top false break kind of thing too. So
Yeah, yeah.
we'll have to watch it.
So we'll see. Price will tell us. Price will tell us with how it interacts with these key spots in the square. On the commodity side, it was an interesting week as we talked about in Barry's segment. The metals, gold, silver, and copper are all sort of chopping and grinding sideways. The energy stocks, crude's looking stronger. Nat gas, we're trying to see if we can triangulate and find the corner there, and then work on a bullish setup off of that one, see if that forms. On the grain side, corn and soybeans still looking for their lows. No sign of that yet. Cocoa just keeps going parabolic. And that's one I think we ought to talk about again at the end, Barry. Like, how do you stay with the trend? How do you stay in a
Mm.
market that's running? Because it kind of applies to the ES. It kind of applies to the NQs right now. You don't want to step in front and short it, and you want to try and keep runners in there if possible. So that psychologically, that's one I think we need to talk about at the end.
Mhm.
But let's dive into the ones that look decent. We got three to cover, and let's start with wheat, the one we've talked about for a while. Uh, Corn and soybeans continue to make new lows, like on a weekly basis, but
Mhm.
this one is holding at a higher low and going sort of bullish in this bullish consolidation as we sort of consolidate on top of this structure here that brought in the low.
Mhm.
We're in a triangle. We wait for the triangle break. When we get the triangle break, because we're seeing these higher lows and holding these other lows, odds favor it's going to be a bullish break. When we get it, we should get a nice, decent move coming out of here on wheat. And I think this price action here is just sort of building up energy and momentum that's going to get released when we finally do break the triangle. Anything else to add on wheat, Barry? I wanted to show it because when you look at the other grains compared to this is just really bullish structure.
Mhm. Well, I think it's a good place to watch. I think we have to watch it really carefully because of the placement.
Mhm.
And you have that 602 area up there, that line. If we can sort of get above and hold above, I think it's another place to start trading along.
Yeah, that's the harmonic
There's no
balance
two,
point.
yeah, there's no two ways to. I mean, I don't see anything else to do.
Yeah, it's waiting. It's waiting on this market to give us the sign that the momentum's going to start piling in. And that's
Mhm.
once the triangle breaks, we'll get that. Let's go to one we've talked about for a few weeks now. Let's go to coffee. A lot like wheat, it's consolidating in a bullish triangle. And
Mhm.
you can see, we got a low here, a washout low here, a higher low here, moved up nicely. And now this correction has been mostly in time. Basically we've corrected almost a full square here. Um, and today we saw a nice bar that took out the last 2, 3 days of price action. Of course, we ended right on the full square. But if we break out of this triangle next week, the move out of here should be a really, really good one.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I like on this thing is if you look at the structure, this whole consolidation has been right has been right here on top of this whole price action where we put in the lows, and this little consolidation we did coming off that low. That's the daily. I also want to show you weekly and monthly here on this one. You can see here we're sort of compressing into this triangle right under a full square. So it's almost like when you push a balloon under the water, you create this pressure. And I think that's what we're seeing here in coffee that's starting to build up. Let's look at the monthly. And I wanted to show you this. Again, we're triangulating right below the half square here
Right.
on a monthly basis. So all three time frames, daily, weekly, monthly, are all sort of compressing and coiling up and getting ready for a move right under really important spots, whether it's a half square or a full square on the chart. So I think the pressure's building for a move, which if you look at how much space we have left here, most likely we're going to get the move next week. What are you seeing in the coffee charts?
Well, I think that triangle break is really the thing here, and we need to really get above that. We need to get above this 190, 200, this level, and otherwise we're going to consolidate and do more sideways. So I think at this point it's critical to get above that.
Yeah, and I agree, and a lot like wheat, I think we're getting into the apex of these triangles, so you got to really watch them because the break is coming. I don't know what day or what moment it's going to happen, but keep them on your radar because if they break up out of these formations, it's going to be a bullish move.
Yeah. And it's close.
And it's close. Yeah, it's close. The one I want to watch is one we talked about a lot a few months ago, and it is finally waking up from its slumber, and this could be a major mover, and it's cotton.
Yeah.
What we've got in cotton is this 15, 16-month consolidation, essentially defined by the half square from here to here. It had a couple deviations below to shake people out. But once this low came in, price action was pretty well defined by this half square. Well, look what we did this week, and especially today. Yesterday, the high was right on the half square, and I was watching it going, oh boy, let's see what's going to happen when we hit this. And then look at today. Close on the high, full above the half square. Now what we want to see, any pullbacks, if you drop down to your 4-hour or your 60-minute, you want to see pullbacks hold above this area. If the pullbacks can hold above, just call it 90, super duper bullish. It validates and confirms the breakout. Because look at that line across, Barry. It basically captures the highs going back to September, October of 2022. And
Right.
that defines the top of this consolidation zone that we've been in. So this here is a lot of energy that's been built up and a lot of power that you can see what's beginning to happen on this breakout. Now we obviously we're not in the clear yet because we could come right back into this chop zone and go sideways again. But as long as we sit on top of this half square in this 90 area, this thing is bullish and the run could be spectacular. Let's look at the weekly and the monthly on this as well, because they show kind of the power that we can get out of these things. There's your weekly. Again, it's a half square here that we're breaking out of, taking us all the way back, to September, October 2022. And when this thing goes, I mean, the moves are pretty spectacular. I mean, look at this. This was a consolidation that was much smaller. This was about 9-month consolidation. And then look at the move you got out of here. So let's see what happens here on a weekly. Let's look at the monthly. The monthly, I wanted to show this. This was a triangle that was about a 5 or 6-month triangle. And look at the move we got out of that.
Yeah.
Went basically a full square. Here we've got about twice, almost 3 times as long of a move. And if we just get a full square move, we're going to go back to the highs here. I also put in one of these giant ABCDs on the monthly
Mm-hmm.
just to show you what the potential is, if this thing really gets going. And this is sort of the move like here. We had a first push up, second push up, and then third. Here you go, first, second. This could be the third. And if you want to see what's possible of happening, go look at a cocoa chart. What happens when you get a multi-month, multi-year type of base on a super large time frame?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a really interesting study to watch this thing go. And I'm going to be long it. I want to be involved because the potential when you have these massive breakouts after a long consolidation is really, really big. So we'll see. Price will tell us.
Yeah.
What do you have to add here on cotton? I know you haven't looked at this one for a while, but we're with me on understanding the base that was being built.
Yeah. Well, coming off that November 2020 low,
Mm-hmm.
2022 low,
Mm-hmm.
the top of that band consolidation was 72 degrees up, and we just broke out of that. I mean, this really starting Thursday. And so if we're on the square 72, we just broke out and it looks good. Now, the bad thing about breaking through 72 is 90 is right above it.
Yes.
And so the 90 here is around 93 cents. I'm sorry, $93.
Mm-hmm.
And once we get above that, I think then we can say, we have a real leg started. So I think that's the one to watch. For now, it looks good because we broke through 72 very strongly. And if it's doing that, we should cut through that 93 level fairly easily. So I think that would be the hint to see. That's about it. I think we're off to a good start either way. I mean, this has been the nicest break so far.
Yeah, on a bigger picture, this 95, what is this, about just under 96, 95.80 on the monthly is big.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look to the left, you see all the times we topped out there, right? In 2020, in 2018, in 2014,
Mm-hmm.
2011, these tops all came in this area of this full square. So if we can get above and sit on that, that's when this thing really takes off.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's got the momentum,
it's got right. I could have talked about this a couple weeks ago when we started perking up, but I said let's wait till we break that half square and talk. So, and I think this is a good transition into this topic that we want to discuss, Barry, is how do we get over this fear of, oh, if I don't get in at the exact bottom, I can't buy it, or if I don't short it at the exact top, I can't short it. How could, because I know as a new trader when I was beginning, 20 some years ago, that was something that would sort of haunt me and keep me from getting involved in a move. What's the psychology and how do you approach that to overcome that sort of fear that if you don't get in at the exact breakout or the exact low or high, you can't trade, that you've missed it?
I think it has to come. I mean, it has to start with some kind of education because we're not really used to the trading mentality in the everyday world and how we get conditioned as children and through school and work and normal work.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I can only speak from my experience. What happened to me was I studied a lot of charts, a lot of history. And by looking at all the different scenarios, you end up understanding, well, the market really moves like this or that, and you'll have some kind of an idea. And then you have to build your system around that. And the reason I sort of framed it with that is if you do go back and check, and even this cotton chart here or any other one, you'll see how after a corner is put in, you have like ample opportunities to trade to the other side, long side or short side.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to learn a little bit about structure. A little bit of Elliott wave wouldn't hurt, but mostly structure just to see after every corner what happened next, and then look at all the consolidation, say, well, if I tried to catch a corner here, how many times would I have lost? So
So it's mainly like spending time with the charts.
you have to spend time. I was telling my son the same thing the other day,
Yeah.
and he'll get his work done very quickly. And I went into this whole speech about how you have to spend time so that you see everything that you have to see. And you have to see a lot of things. You have to see what happens when it breaks out, what happens when a triangle breaks out, what happens, meaning what's highly probable.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to look at what's highly probable, and that's the side we want to be on. And if you look at the corners, pick any corner, you'll see majority of them, you'll get a chance not just to catch the first pullback, but you'll get other chances to trade it along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? Well, that means you have to be able to get in on a pullback and trade it. It's sort of like the buy the dip joke,
Right.
but it wouldn't be in a broad, category like that, but it'll be individual charts. And it's really not the dip. It's really what you want to look at would be the counter trends. And how do you trade the counter trends? Well, I mean, I'm going to compress like a whole bunch of Gann lessons into one. You want to look at past counter trends in similar moves and see how deep they go or how big they are. And then you can draw boxes around them and move them forward and say, well, is this a reasonable counter trend? Is it 5%? Kind of like when people look at in percents.
Mm-hmm.
But I think by looking at it in degrees or even in dollars and cents, it makes, it's practical. You can still make it work. But if you really just chart the bars, it's even easier because you just look for, if it's a 1 day or 2 day counter trend and the market takes out the low of the high bar, let's just say we're going up, then its market's very strong. So then, from that point, you can trade the long side, and you didn't have to catch the low where the highest risk is. The after the first counter trend, after the momentum kicks in, at the beginning part, not towards the end of a leg, like you wait all this time and try to trade the NASDAQ now. Well, you might be towards the end
Mm-hmm.
rather than the
Right.
beginning. So
Right.
you want to be towards the beginning. That's why we talk about the first pullback, first counter trend. And cotton did that. Cotton gapped up here. You see in November, and it consolidated into the first pullback. It moved up again, came back, did a false break in December, and then higher low early January, and it moved higher. And from January, you had plenty of time to trade to the long side.
Mm-hmm.
And the faster trade was after that, the clean, once the momentum's kicked in, that first
This
pullback
pullback
right
here.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, right here.
And that might be the whole secret. All the patterns and structures we talk about, everything works perfectly when the market's moving, the volume's in place, and there's a lot of activity, a lot of open interest. That's when you want to trade these things, not try to catch it off the block.
Yeah,
When not everybody's in there, there's not enough momentum, all the traders aren't committed. It's still wishy-washy. What are you doing there? What are you trying to do?
right.
Wait
No,
till everybody, wait till
and
people are committed, then you have somebody else to help you.
right. And what I'm hearing from you is you got to spend time with the charts to understand how a market moves.
Mm-hmm.
How does it act at a corner? How does it act at a high? How does it act at a low? What's the, what are the characteristics of the bars that you see at those different points? And that to me is invaluable and the only way you get that, like you can't tell me or I can't tell you how a market acts. You have to see it and have to understand it and have to sort of develop your comfort level with how it moves.
And we all, everyone likes to look at momentum indicators and trend indicators. Well, the momentum indicators really only work when there's momentum to work with.
Mhm. Like they're not working in ES and Qs right now at all.
Well, yeah, if the market is going sideways or if it's on the other end of the spectrum, then they're not. You can see it's not even to trade. Just go and look. Where's the meat of that? Where's the sweet spot on your momentum indicators? It's not at the bottom. It's
Mm-mm.
after it gets going. So you want to wait till it gets going. Of course, then people are worried. Well, what if I miss the whole thing?
Right.
But
Yeah,
then
that's the psychology that I was susceptible 20 some years ago when I started, and I think most new traders fall into that. Oh, I've missed it. Oh, I've missed it. And
Mhm.
then the thing just keeps running and running and running.
So even if you think you missed it, if you wait for the next counter trend, let's say it's 1, 2, 3 bars, um, and it reverses, you're still better off than trying to catch the low.
Mhm.
Now, how would you know that? Well, go back and study the structure, study past moves, the bear campaigns, bull campaigns, and you got to do that work. I think really, as individual traders, you have to do that. That's the kind of thing you just can't get from a YouTube video or your friend's going to tell you how to trade. You have to look at it because that's where you will sort of neutralize fear at the base. The reason people get scared is because, well, fear comes from what? The unknown,
The unknown. Yep.
right? So if you study enough of the charts, then the unknown is not so unknown. It becomes
Right.
familiar, and you become familiar with how the nature of the movement. And
And it goes to the Mark Douglas thing. You have an idea of what's more likely to happen than not.
absolutely.
And that's the basis for an edge. When you have an idea of this is more probable than that, and you can put, a risk reward on that with a stop, that's how you develop an edge.
Yeah, and then you pick a pattern you can work with. I mean, there are so many patterns you can work with, and it fits. If you go through all the time frames, all the patterns, there's something that fits every sort of risk appetite, and then you go back and test that time frame, test the risk, test what I just talked about, wait for momentum to get going and then do all your structural work. If it's in chop, forget about it. You can look at all the indicators. It's not going to tell you anything till we, like this cotton, till we break out, everything else is just, it's just not worth it unless you're just trading the corners
Right.
within the consolidation or you're writing
Mhm.
options on either side. Outside, if you just want to trade the trends, then you have to wait till it starts trending. And the trend only really starts when you break out and the momentum's in place, and then you trade it. And if it
Right.
doesn't move, well, at least you got into a place where your risk reward is it's worth trading that,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I think it was an important topic to speak on, and we'll speak on it further just because it's you wait for these setups, and then the setup comes, and if you don't get in on at the low or the high, the inexperienced trader thinks, well, I can't trade it, I missed it.
Well,
And
yeah,
and it's really just the beginning. It's not the end of the move. This is the start, and this is what we're looking for. These, and especially in the commodities, we're looking for the moves out of these big long consolidations.
right. And the reason you want to study, like even this cotton chart, if you just take a look at it, you can see how the November low was clearly a false break.
Hmm.
So now you don't have to buy that, but at least you can note it. Say, well, you know what? That looks like a false break. And it was. We took out, last couple of lows prior to that. And the fast move started. We got held above that square.
Hmm.
And from there on, you're waiting for the momentum to kick in. I mean, that's when you start watching it. And
Yep.
momentum started to pick up early January. And then you lean on the structure. By then, momentum's in, then you can trade the counter trends, and you got one good one, and you get one solid trade out of it. And I mean solid.
Yeah.
But
And
you had
and the
to wait
point
till it, started moving.
and the point is that it's breaking out of this big, huge consolidation zone that we've had since October, November of 2022.
Hmm.
So if this is a real breakout, which we'll know by the price coming back and not going back into this consolidation zone, it's going to be a massive move out of here.
Yeah, I
And
mean, just looking at the consolidation, we should go at least to where it says cotton up there,
yeah,
you know,
exactly, full
at
square at
a
least.
minimum. Hmm.
And if you look at the bigger time frames, the weekly and the monthly, the setup is for a massive move.
Right.
So we'll see how it plays out. And
Hmm.
this, we're just looking at probabilities. There's no guarantees. We're looking at probabilities here.
Hmm.
So what are you looking at this week, Barry? Where's your focus this week?
Well, I think it's good to pay attention to all the active markets. So I think S&P is very good to watch.
Mhm.
Bonds are good to watch in case we break through the bottom. I think there's a good trade there.
Yeah, we could get a fast move lower there.
Hmm.
Yep.
and crude to see if we can hold 73 and a half. Because if it does and push comes to shove, oil could get crude could easily get moving. What else we got going? Dollar, yeah, I'm kind of watching. I mean, I watch all the big five and then some.
Right.
Like copper, not so much, but I think the movers are the ones to watch. Cotton for sure. We definitely want to watch wheat to see how it breaks out.
Yep.
But mainly I think the S&P and the bonds are really, really interesting right now.
Right.
And the
And this,
dollar.
I think the cotton chart is a good example. Just because a market's going sideways, it doesn't mean you ignore it. You
No.
monitor it, you watch it, and you say, okay, if it gets to one of these levels, I need to pay attention. And cotton got on my radar last week. I mentioned it on the show. And this week we got the follow through. I posted something today when it started breaking out of the half square. You just keep an eye on it, right? You're not like watching tick charts on it because it's stuck in a consolidation zone, but you take a look at it every day. You say, oh, what's it doing? A lot of times, I'll just look at my IB dashboard where prices are there. And if I see, a certain commodity up a bunch, then I'll go dive into the chart and say, okay, let's see what's going on there. Are we hitting any important levels where I need to pay attention to this?
Mm-hmm.
So, gold, silver, copper are all in that category. Corn, soybeans in that category. We don't ignore them. We keep an eye on them. Nat gas, right? It's coming down pretty hard. We want to see, do we get signs of a bottom there? So we pay attention to them. We just don't trade them until the setup's there. Anyway, it's a great time. We said 2024 was going to be a great time to trade. I think it's coming through in spades, and we're only in the sixth week of this year. So, and this, I think we're going to have this kind of action all year long. So, watch the videos, make sure, help us grow the channel. You guys have been doing a great job lately. Get your friends to subscribe, ring the bell, set the alerts, like it, help us grow the channel so we can do more videos because we really want to see if we can pump out some more content. And we're just waiting for the subscriber base to get up there to have it make sense.
Yep.
So any help you give us on that, we'd be greatly appreciated. Have a great week, everybody. Rest up this weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Good job, Ben. If people catch his cotton trade, it's going to be amazing. So,
Yeah.
And the wheat trade.
Yeah.
Let's watch it closely.
Watch
All right.
them
We'll see you next
closely.
week.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.